Produced by Victoire. Victoire gives a special thanks to the EWF, Empire Wrestling Federation, and Mr. Jesse Hernandez, as well as SoCal Wrestling TV. Find the app on Roku.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Power and Glory with Paul Roma. This is the podcast that tells you the truth about professional wrestling, and we are glad that you're joining us today. I am one of your co-stars, the Master Amir, along with my co-stars, ladies and gentlemen, WCW, WWF, before it became WWE superstar, Paul Roma.
Nice to be here. And listen, if you can't handle the truth, this is not the podcast for you. If it is, and you can handle the truth, then go hit that subscribe button right now.
Indeed. And our other co-star, Paul, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mario Mancini. Yep. There we go. Our star of the show doesn't need to introduce himself, doesn't even need to welcome any of you. But again, like Paul said, that's the truth. So deal with it. And but gentlemen, before we begin, we'll give our announcements as usual. Bottom left hand of your screen, you'll see our t-shirts, Power and Glory, the t-shirts. They are available now for order. If you're interested, use the email address in the description of the video. If not, you can purchase them at WrestleCon 2025 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Also, if you're interested in some public speaking from our team here at the Masters of Wrestling, that includes Paul Roma, Mario Mancini, Rico Constantino, McCallion, and myself, the Master, use the email address in the description of the video. All right, so the show has begun. This week, we're going to be covering road stories of ravishing Rick Rude, a true legend in the world of pro wrestling, former WWE and WCW superstar, Hall of Famer, in fact. But before we get to that, we had some news this weekend because it was the WWE Elimination Chamber. And and a lot happened in that one night. A lot was revealed, but we're going to reveal even more because you're going to discover the truth here. So, gentlemen, Mario, I'm going to start with Mario, Paul, because I know he's got some things to say.
Oh, baby.
So, Mario, impressions of the Elimination Chamber and Mr. John Cena.
You know, I go to a butcher in New Haven, Connecticut.
That's not the guy who cuts your hair, is it?
No, every
Okay.
now and then.
Yeah.
Not a lot, every now and then. And I get this beautiful roast. And my daughter likes to put that in a pressure cooker that I recently purchased. Amazing apparatus. I tend to get one a little too big. So I make the roast, and usually there's half of the roast left over. And then my daughter turns around and says, "Hey, you know what, Dad? We're going to put that in the fridge, and we're going to make a stew out of that the next day." So she cuts it up in cubes, and she makes a stew. She figured out another way to use it. When you're a baby face for 20 years, the roast is overdone, and there's a lot left up. There's nowhere else to go with it. You're done. You squeezed every drop out of the wet rag. It's dry. There's nowhere else to go. In my world, in Roma's world, when you see that, you go, duh. Of course. You know, that gives what happens when a baby face is at the end of his run. What happens when a baby face goes out there and instead of people standing up and cheering and clapping, they're going,
yeah.
Well, he's got to be reborn. He's got to be born again. Right? He's got to be born again. And you're born again as a heel. And that, while I was talking to you guys before we went on the air, went on my laptop. I said, "Oh man, it's gonna die. I better plug it in. I gotta recharge it." Well, his entire career at his old age has been recharged.
Yep.
They figured out another way to cut them up and use them. So it's a no-brainer that happened. It's just a no-brainer. You know what I mean? So um I read some comments this morning that it was the biggest moment in professional wrestling history. No.
No, I think that
Uh,
term right now is used so loosely
yeah,
Mhm.
on
no.
so many different people.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the greatest of all time is overused.
Is overused,
And as we've
right?
heard, we said before, time hasn't even finished yet. So how can it be all time?
When you talk about this is right up Mario's alley. When you talk about the greatest of all time, and you hear it in baseball, you always hear about the Maris or the Ruth
Hmm.
or the Robinson, but you don't hear about every new guy that steps up to the plate. And I think that's what they've done in wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, the greatest of all time, and now the next guy's the greatest, and next is this guy, and next is that guy. That's all they say.
Hmm.
They have no other avenue to build these guys off of because their talent, and I'm not picking out anybody in particular, their wrestling talent ability in the ring isn't there.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that doesn't stand out as the greatest of all time,
All right.
right? You take a Kurt Hennig or a Bret Hart,
Yeah.
right? Okay, now you look at them and you're like, wow, these guys can go, man. They know all these different moves. They can really wrestle. Okay, you want to name one of them the greatest of all time? I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But is it because you won X amount of titles, which somebody is relinquishing to you anyway? Like, how do you win 70 championship belts?
Hmm.
Well, if you're the greatest that won 70, that means you had to lose
Yeah.
70 times too, right? I mean, somewhere along the line, you lost just as many matches, if not more, in order to get those titles.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about the wins, and let's just not even think about talking about the losses because they're kind of equal, if not more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So are you the greatest of all time? Well, let's see. If you keep at something, you will get better, supposedly. So in wrestling, we all know what it's all about. So is it because you we need to make money with you because we feel sorry for you? What is it? We ran out of options. I mean, what is it?
Hmm.
Because again, let's talk about CENA, which is right up your alley, Mancini. He's definitely not one of the greatest wrestlers of any time.
Well, listen, there's so many things to take into consideration. I don't think anybody can put their finger on one person. So he's the greatest of all time. Was he the greatest draw of all time? Is that what you're saying? Was he the greatest merchandise guy of all time? Is that what you're saying? Did he cut the best promo of all time? Is that what you're saying? Was he the best in-ring wrestler of all time? Is that what you're saying?
I could say no to all those things.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like there's so many variables involved to state that somebody is the greatest of all time. Listen, I grew up on Bruno Sammartino. Bruno
Another great
Sammartino
guy.
Bruno Sammartino was the reason why I became a professional wrestler. Him and him alone. Um, and as I got older and as I got into the business and as social media progressed, I'd watch a lot of his matches. And sure, God forgive me. He wasn't,
Well,
he wasn't,
well, what you're
so
referring what you're referring to though, Mario, is the propaganda machine. Essentially, is you once you say something and you repeat it long enough, the crowd, the audience will buy it.
right. He was good, but he definitely not the best that ever entered the ring. And again, there's a lot of variables. It's the early 60s. New York City is flooded, flooded with Italian Americans
Mhm.
and Italians that came over from the boat.
Yeah.
So it flooded with Italians. So he always sold out the Garden. All the Italians came to see him. It's just like when New York City was changing in the mid 70s, early to mid 70s, right? And a lot of Hispanics started coming into New York City, right? Who is the heavyweight champion then? Pedro Morales,
Yeah.
right? Pedro Morales was the heavyweight champion. And it wasn't until the mid 80s to the late 80s where Vince got away from the Italian, the Russian, the Irishman, the Polish guy. That Vince Senior went all ethnic. Those were his stars were all ethnic.
Mm.
So they got away from that to dictate who is going to be on top. So even Vince Senior himself, said to Terry, your name, I want you to be my Irish guy. So your name is Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? He gave him Hogan for a last name. He wanted an Irish guy.
Yeah.
So that's where Vince Senior's brain was. But it's not that way anymore. So who constitutes as the greatest of all time? I mean, do we go all the way back to Gotch
Mm.
in those guys? Do we go to Kowalski, Prima Canera?
Right.
Where do we go?
Well, I think what's interesting is, and I had this conversation last night with Booker. Actually, plug him in here. Jake from EWF works alongside Jesse Hernandez, and we were talking about people looking back in history and how it seems that there's a cutoff point. People will look back only so far, and they'll forget everything else prior to that. The cutoff point around about the 90s. So if you went up to someone young now who's a casual, let's just say, and not all, again, I want to put that disclaimer, not all, but a casual wrestling fan is not going to look back to 1985 or 88. Maybe, but they're not going to know all of the talent that was around. They're not going to study that. So they're going to just go with what is current. One of the things that I found very interesting in this whole John Cena turn, and I agree with you both, he's been, squeezed, that proverbial towel has been squeezed, all the water was out of it, and you needed to turn heel. Quite honestly, I think it should have been done 10 years ago. But
Correct.
but John has been in and out of wrestling. He was one of those guys who said, he was never going to sell out. He wasn't going to be like The Rock. And lo and behold, he went and did exactly everything The Rock did. He went to Hollywood. He quote unquote abandoned the wrestling community to go and pursue that. And now he comes back, arguably not the same John Cena. Paul and I, we talked off camera. I don't know why John Cena is so pale. Have any of you noticed out there? He's so pale. I mean, I don't know why he's at least put on some fake tan, John.
Maybe he
Something.
doesn't want a facelift like most people in Hollywood.
Maybe he
But
was paying me a tribute.
well, let me ask you this. So he's going to face off now against
Cody Rhodes, I believe, is coming up at WrestleMania
right,
because he won the Elimination Chamber.
right. So the way I'm seeing it is like this. Look, I'm a big fan of Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
I have nothing against any of the Rhodes family. I think that Cody is blah right now. He has nothing going on. He comes out, the fans will applaud him, but they don't go crazy over him. For lack of a better word, as we would always say, he's dead in the water right now. They need to try and spark something, get something going. Whether they're going to put Cena over on him to make him a real heel, and that's basically what I see happening. If something's going to happen, you're going to turn this guy full heel. He's got to beat your top babyface. And I don't think that there's that much juice behind Cody Rhodes. So maybe they can rekindle both of their careers, jumpstart them again by having this big match, right? This is the big showdown. And then having CENA go over on Rhodes in some way, shape, or form, with obviously a rematch, just to see how it goes and base everything off of what the attendance will be. I mean, look, people are going to go to WrestleMania if, Bullwinkle is wrestling. It doesn't matter. It's WrestleMania, so they have to get all their facts straight. Once the match is set up and it goes over, they're going to get their numbers, obviously through TV and the ratings and so on and so forth, and how that worked out. I'm going to go on the record right now and say it's going to be a flop.
Okay. Mario, what do you say about this match?
Now, I don't watch it enough. I don't know how much juice Cody has. But the wrestling brain says, they're setting it up. I don't think they turned him heel for him to do a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They turned him heel for a reason. So, I don't know. I don't know, but it's all over social media and people are going nuts for it. So it worked.
Yeah.
They're going insane about it. So it worked.
I think they've finally done something, and it only took them since 1996 to catch something similar when Hulk Hogan came down at Bash at the Beach and joined Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, turned his back on the fans, and they formed the NWO. I think there
Right.
are shadows of that in the whole thing, the way The Rock got him to turn and join him. It's kind of like the two veterans who are at the end of their career, The Rock and John Cena, have now joined together and they're forming this new faction. This, I guess, is what it's going to be. It's looking that way, and that will be probably another, like another NWO thing is what I'm foreseeing here. This will be something similar to that. But coming back to Cody briefly there, because Paul, you talked about, he's kind of being blah. And again, I think he's a great talent. He's a great talker. He's very professional, eloquent in what he does. But I agree with you. It's run its course. Now, why do you walk out wearing this suit? Why? Why? It's like in acting. They ask you why. Where's the emotion? Why? What are you doing? What's the point to this? He's a guy who comes out in a suit. He's holding the belt and he talks. That's it. Why is he the American Nightmare? What does that moniker, what can he do to make that moniker come to life? Why is he the American Nightmare? Doesn't
Yeah.
there's some
If he,
disconnect.
right. If he came out, like Macho Man,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
You get it. He's out in character.
right.
But, when I see him come out to the ring, I say, okay, I get that, right? He's got the outfit on. I get that.
Yeah.
But you're cutting interviews, you're in a suit. Like, what character do you want to portray?
Mhm.
I'm not getting it. Maybe it's just me,
Yeah.
but I'm not getting it. I'm not really buying, and I like the guy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, I'm not knocking him. If it sounds like that, I'm not.
Mm.
I'm not getting what he's trying to get across to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I got Macho Man. I understand Mr. Perfect, right?
Yeah.
You understood all these guys, Rick Rude. You understand all these guys back then,
Yeah.
what they are, what their character is.
Yeah.
I'm not understanding what his character is. And now you're going to go up against Cena, who is turning heel. And they will turn him heel.
Mm.
There's slightly good chance that if you don't lose the belt, he's going to leave you bleeding in the ring,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Or you will lose the belt, and they're going to try to really build a head of steam behind you,
Mm.
so that okay, we got Cena over now; he's a heel, and now we need somebody to go after that belt, and it's got to be you because you just lost it, so you get first dibs at it.
Okay.
Is that enough steam to rekindle his career, so to speak? Not to say that he's old and over
Mm.
the hill, but I mean, look, they carried Ric Flair for 80 years right now, right?
Yep.
He's been going at it.
Yep.
Now he's wearing these suits that are, gosh, They look like somebody's, linens from their curtains or something that
Yeah.
somebody made a suit out of. I
Yeah.
just don't get it.
No, just remember, Paul. Ric Flair is Joe Rogan status, baby. All right, so just remember that.
That's right. I forgot he told you that
Yep.
he is Joe Rogan podcast status.
Yeah.
Sorry.
On April 23rd, he's going to be 48 years old. So I guess for that kind of money, hell, man, I'd quit my job and live in the gym.
Yeah.
At 58. You know what I mean?
Who's
It's
48?
like
John Cena.
Cena's going to be 48.
Yeah. But
So
speaking, Mario, I want to bring you on this like a creative mind here. So again, Cena's just turned heel. For the past 20 years, he's been wearing, and I think we touched on this before, Cena's attire. Now he's not a teenager and he's not in his 20s anymore, so he really shouldn't be wearing baggy jean pants like he's some kind of hip hop, right? So, really, seriously, it's like my wife said to me, my wife Tink, earrings. Right? When you wear an earring, they're cool for a certain period of time. If you're of a certain age, once you hit a certain age, it's not cool anymore. You just look stupid. So it's like Cena. So now, what do you think? If you had the opportunity, Mario and Paul, to repackage John as a heel, how would you present him now? Like in terms of attire, what would the angle be in your head? I'm putting you guys on the spot, but I want to see where your creative juices come up with.
Go on, Mario.
well, I would think that's the last time you'll ever see him in that attire, right? Because that associates him with a baby face, right?
Yep.
So along with his new attitude, he's got to have a different look. Like Hogan had the colored in black beard thing, and he ditched the yellow and because the yellow was Hogan babyface, right? So he's got to they have to just repackage him, whether it's long spandex or regular trunks or what have you. They're gonna have to dress him like a heel. They're gonna have to dress him like a heel. So um I don't know what they're gonna put on him. I really don't. It just
No, what would you do if you had control? If you were in the creative department, how
I'd
would you
put him in I'd put him in black trunks.
back trunks?
I'd put him in black trunks. I'd put him in black boots. Um, you know, what's his name though?
Right.
What's his name? See, John Cena is not enough.
Right.
So now we have to attach something to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Yep.
what I mean? And we have to attach something
Mm-hmm.
to his name to repackage him. And I would put him in black.
Would you cut his hair again? Because his hair has been a subject matter here. Because he's kind of like coiffed, but it's kind of like an old fashioned Hollywood star right now. Would you shave it back down? Like
or I shave it back down. What color is it? I didn't catch
he's got
that.
brown hair. Brown hair.
It'd be jet black.
Okay.
Um, maybe some facial hair. I don't know what he's gonna do because I don't know if Cena is still doing these morning shows or he's on TV doing something. I don't know, but he's got to be a totally different dude.
Mm-hmm.
The sneakers and those whatever those khaki things are, I don't know. That's out the door.
Yeah.
You're gonna wanna put him. I don't know. Maybe put him in a robe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something. Maybe give him a couple of chicks. I don't know.
Maybe play on the fact that he does claim to be the greatest of all time and maybe put that arrogance in him and kind of incorporate, like when you said robe, kind of incorporate a little bit of the Buddy Nature Boy, what was it?
Buddy Rogers.
Buddy Rogers. Incorporate little shades of that. Paul, would you definitely spray tan him?
Let's put it this way. It's very hard to come up with something on spur of the moment on
Yeah.
somebody like John Cena
Yeah.
especially when you're not in the mix of things and know, where they're going with it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. A lot of it may have to do with where he's going as far as acting is concerned.
Okay.
So let's say he's going to be a heel,
Mhm.
right? He's got a movie coming up and he's going to be a bad guy
Okay.
in that movie. That could be the spinoff, as to why they're turning him heel, or maybe they just turn him heel because, again, in the beginning, like we said, he's nothing happening.
Right.
He wears the same old crap out there, the same jean shorts,
Yeah.
like he's a 15-year-old kid
Right.
doing break dancing,
Right.
on the streets,
Yeah.
or skateboarding, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Again, you really got to I think you really have to get to know a person
Mhm.
in order to see what fits that personality,
Yeah.
so that he doesn't have to work so hard at getting it over
Yeah.
to the American people.
Okay. That's a good
You know what I
explanation.
mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's really the fairest I can be. I think Mario touched on, some good things, whether it's a flashy, jacket, kind of like a Ric Flair kind of thing, a robe,
Mhm.
come down maybe with some women on each arm and acting like he's this, that, and the other thing, but um, it's all been done.
Yeah.
So I think you have to reach, but again, is there Hollywood behind this?
I'm sure there is. I mean, come on, The Rock is there,
I mean, the guy walked out on stage during the awards with a towel around his waist, embarrassing himself,
that was ridiculous.
just to get in good with Hollywood.
Yeah.
So, are they going to give him a push, Hollywood, now? I mean, he's a horrible actor. Horrible. I mean, The Rock puts him to shame.
Mhm. Yeah.
Compared to two, The Rock puts him to shame.
Yeah.
So, I think there's a lot to be considered that we don't know about,
Mhm.
that's, going on behind the scenes, that they may have to, kind of bounce off of.
Yeah, that makes
Has
sense.
to do with the other. So if he is turning heel in Hollywood, then they're going to kind of work that character together,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
That makes sense. And I tell you what, Paul, let's throw it to the audience. Write us, drop a comment in there. Tell us what you think a new John Cena should look like. Hey, I tell you what, if any of you are artists out there, do a little rendering, do a sketch, drop it in the
Show it.
comments. You can drive. Yeah, show us what you
Yeah.
think John Cena should become. We'd like to know.
And
Gentlemen,
we'll show all our fans, right?
yeah, we'll show them. In fact, if there's a
Only they hit that subscribe button.
That's right. We're not going to show it unless you powerplex that subscribe button and also hit the likes and share this with your friends and family. That is our request from us to you. It's we're not asking for the world, but that's the prerequisite right there. But coming back to the Elimination Chamber, because there's so much, and I know we started this show, ladies and gentlemen. We mentioned Rick Rude. We may even not be able to go into that because there's so much going on. We may have to save that for next week or week after's episode. But now we're looking at the Elimination Chamber. We're looking at CM Punk now. Now CM Punk. This is a guy who's been wanting to have his WrestleMania match forever, his main event, and he has not gotten it. We know and again, I don't mean any disrespect to see. I think CM Punk is one of the best currently right now and the best of the last 20 years. I think he's fantastic. But he does
As a wrestler,
as a performer, as a talker. He's captivating. I give him credit for when he went out and he spoke against the machine and wasn't afraid to do that. He spoke his mind, so I appreciate that. But we know that he's been, susceptible to temper tantrums, to getting fired, to all these kinds of things in the past. Look at his situation with AEW. Look at his prior situation with WWE. So it's about separating the professional from the personal. And sometimes, as you gentlemen know, wrestlers have a difficult time doing that, any performer, because it kind of bleeds together. So do you think now, and he did have heat with Cena in the past, I believe in real life. How do you think? Do you think Cena's going to, do you think Punk will this out? Do you think he'll stay around? Because another year has gone by and he's not the main event at WrestleMania. How do you think he's going to handle this? Just knowing what you know. Paul?
Well, I think they're going to give him this one last push towards the door to see if he's going to use the door
Mhm.
or he's going to, you know, toughen it up and tough it out and say, okay, I wanted another shot. You gave it to CENA and not to me,
Mhm.
but I'm going to stick around
Mhm. What do you think, Mark?
because,
Oh,
I
sorry,
need the
Paul.
money. I need the money. Or I don't need the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I want to stay in the limelight. Maybe there's, more. Maybe he's looking to act. I mean, Hollywood's taken on a lot of people that are not actors, and they've proven it on screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
So,
true.
you
What
know,
do
yeah.
Well, actually, but I say this though, CM Punk is a good actor, man. I watched him, and I encourage any of our viewers that haven't seen it yet, Heels on Netflix. Heels is a tremendous series about professional wrestlers in a small town, and it's an independent promotion, and there's a spoof WWE involved, and tremendous acting. It sadly ended, I think, at the end of season 2, and then they lost funding for it. They're trying to raise funding to go back into production for season 3, but it's tremendous. And CM Punk was actually a character on there,
Okay.
and he did a real. Now you compare and contrast the two. Yeah, CM Punk is a natural. He can do that very, very
That's
well.
nice to hear.
So he's very, very good at that. Mario, do you think Punk will stick it out? Do you think he'll hang around, or do you think this will be the final nail in his coffin for him to start causing a ruckus again?
I think they might have something else for him. I think they're going to keep him. I think he's got to have something to do with this
Mm,
eventually. Um, I just watched the whole thing
okay.
um, while you guys are talking and haven't seen blood in a while.
Mm,
Um, and I might not have the right to say this. People could say, "Who the hell are you?" This was too much.
too much blood?
No, this was too much of a beating, and it's not over. The Rock keeps hitting him with a strap. Um, there's 3 guys in the ring. I don't know who the other guy is. I see The Rock and Cena, and I'm going to tell you why it's too much, and I'm going to tell you why it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Because in my day, now this is I don't mean to put the sound on here, but this is 6 minutes and 33 seconds. There is no way 2 to 3 guys brutally, and that's a brutal beating, brutally beats up the heavyweight champion without the dressing room empty with
Yeah,
baby faces.
true.
Doesn't happen. The baby faces come out and they save them. Now, I don't know if that happened. I got another minute. But that that does not happen
Mhm.
without the baby faces coming out. And no, there is nothing. Cody's just down on the canvas. So I watched the whole thing, and for me, um, and I know Roma's going to agree with me. If I was sitting at ringside and I'd be yelling what I yell at Paradise Alley at live shows. Go in, go in, go in, because he shakes Cody's hand and hugs him.
This is John Cena.
Yeah, John Cena. And he looks over at The Rock, and The Rock gives him the so they separate. He gives him one boot to the stomach. One boot to the stomach. And he sold that thing for, I don't know, 45 seconds. I'd have to time it.
Mm.
I mean, he sold the hell out of that boot. And he just kept selling. And Cena just stood there. And I'm like, that's too long.
Mm.
Boot to the stomach, that's too long.
Yeah.
But then, and there's no more. there's no more hiding gigging. I mean, the minute he wrapped that thing around his fist and hit Cody, Cena hit Cody in the head, Cody went down and he went, I'm like, come
Kind of
on,
like
man.
when Hogan did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he was just like boom, 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 boom. I'm like, come on, man, you gotta hide that. I've done it a half a dozen times in my career, and I've done it the same way every time because I was paranoid about it. So it was throw me out of the ring. I'll take a bump outside and I'll be on my stomach and just put boots to my lower back. While he's putting boots to my lower back, I gigged. So when I came up, I was bleeding. You know what I mean? I would never gig in the ring, ever, ever. It would be always outside the ring on my stomach. The guy's standing over me. Nobody can see me. And he's putting boots to my lower back. And I just take that right here, take it, and boom, boom, and then I'm bleeding.
Yeah.
But that was a brutal beating with no baby faces coming in it's like turning every baby face in the dressing room heel.
Yeah.
And if you watch the crowd, maybe it's because they were stunned. You saw the people kind of just sitting in their seat watching. One comment I found interesting was how devastated AEW might be now. Because that storyline is so hot and interesting that it's just another dagger to them, which is when, and I'm not saying this because I'm biased. I swear I'm not saying it because I'm biased. I'm saying it because I've experienced it and I've seen it with my own eyes and I've seen it done. This is why they need a guy like Paul Roma to watch what Cena just did and meet with Tony Khan and be fired up and go, listen, don't worry about it because this is what I have planned. Okay. And this is what we're going to do. Okay. And we're going to be able to combat what they just did with this angle. All right. Trust me, we're going to do this angle and it's going to work. You know what I mean? That's why he needs a guy like Paul Roma to counter what just happened on the other side. But there's no phone.
No, I agree with you, Mario, and that's a good point, and I second that. Paul's a great mind for professional wrestling storytelling. He's been there, done it, got the T-shirts, sold the T-shirts, so he knows how to do it. But I agree with you, and Paul, I think that's going to be the conundrum now for competitive companies. They're going to have to pull out something from their bag of tricks to stay relevant because this, like you said, Mario, regardless of how it was done and if there were some false starts, some errors, whatever in there, it's going to be as hot as the NWO when that kicked off with Hogan. So you've got to come up with something to combat that, right, Paul? I mean, you've got to. If you're TNA or AEW, anybody, right?
Otherwise, their ratings go up and yours go down.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a rumor. I don't know if it's true, but talking about the greatest of all time and wondering who that is, there is one guy that I consider the utmost authority on professional wrestling, the history of professional wrestling, the psychology of professional wrestling. There is nobody better on the face of the earth than Jim Cornette, and I'm a big Jim Cornette guy. Who was kind enough to mention our podcast on his last show. AEW, I don't know why they haven't reached out to guys like Roma, like Cornette. Like, I mean, he needs, you know what? There's two kinds of people, right? I'm here for the company. I'm here for the company.
Right.
And I'm here to make the company grow and make the company better. I love the company. I care about the company. And then I'm just here for the money.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Roma agrees, but I think Tony Khan has too many people that are just there for the money.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. Somebody like Cornette is not looking, and maybe he doesn't want to be doing that, which is sad to say if that is the truth. But however, um, he's brilliant. I'm going to throw that out there so you know that I'm not saying anything bad about him. Um, maybe he doesn't want to be a part of it anymore, or that part of it. I will tell you this: you hit on a good thing, which is, there are people that are there for different reasons. You need people that have the understanding with themselves, that know that they are done with putting themselves in the ring, with putting themselves over in wrestling. As in our school, when we train our students, we are not working angles where Mario hits the ring and does something, or I hit the ring. You know how many of my students, they harass me? One more match. Come on, I want to wrestle you. I want to wrestle you. And I keep telling them, it's not about me.
Right.
Yeah, but I just want to wrestle you. It's not about me. It's about you, the other wrestlers in here. It's about you guys coming up. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And Cornette understands that. Otherwise, you've been writing himself into scripts.
Very true. Yeah.
Saying that these are the people that they need to write scripts for them, to write storylines for them. Two people just hashing it, putting their brain cells together, just banging brain cells off one another, and coming up with dominance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Not asking Ric Flair what he thinks would be a good angle, because it's going to be him,
Right.
and it's going to be him against Sting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the same old crap over and over and over again.
Yeah.
How many times can you do? You won the belt 75 times.
Yep.
How many times can you do this? Like, is there no one that sees what's going on?
I think honestly, Paul, I think he's going to win a podcast award too with Joe Rogan. I mean, I don't know.
No, but seriously, right? I mean, Mario, help me out here. I mean, how do you win the belt 100 times if it's not about you all the time? I mean, seriously.
That's just the thing. A good example. A good example
match
on
right now. I want a wheelchair match. I want to see Flair in a wheelchair fighting someone else in a wheelchair for the belt.
How about Mick Foley?
The thing is that a good example, on a lower level. We got a kid who's about, I don't know, 5'3". Maybe he's 130 pounds. And Roma ribbed this wrestler named Jekyll, and he said, "Yeah, you're working with him, and you got to put him over." And he goes, "I'll put him over."
Yeah.
Without hesitation, he's like, "I'll put him over."
Yeah.
Roma goes, "No, I'm only ribbing you." He goes, "No, I would. I'd put him over."
Yeah.
That what Jekyll just did was solidify himself forever in that company, in my company, in our company, because that's a company guy. That's a guy with no ego. That's a guy that understands the wrestling business. You know what I mean? So AEW, you know what I mean? And you're talking to the right guy. Okay. You're talking to the right guy. What I've liked to go over, what I've liked to got a gimmick of what did I always hope? Yeah. But as I always hoped when they said, listen, you're in a 6-man tag team with the Funk Brothers. They're going to pull your trunks down and they're going to brand your ass with an ink brand iron with the FB on it. Says Funk Brothers. I go, okay. Hey, I need a stretcher from you tonight. Okay. Beefcake's going to cut your hair. Okay. Adrian Adonis is going to spray paint you. Okay. Ted DiBiase is going to stick a $100 bill in your mouth. Okay. Jake Snake's going to crawl all over you. Okay. And you're there to say, listen, I'm more than happy to do this for you. Give me something back. Today it's, I'm not going to do that for you. And I want everything. I want you to do everything for me. And that's it. That's not the wrestling business. You know
No.
what I mean? That's that, and you have to think about the company. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You have to, because you're only going to benefit if the company explodes. That's You're only going to benefit from it.
Yeah, you're all part of it. And it's funny you guys
Right.
mention it because I had the exact same conversation with Jesse Hernandez and Jacob Alexander last night. And, we did a show yesterday and we had a lengthy conversation at the end of it. And it was exactly what you gentlemen are talking about. It's a whole entity, and you have to listen to those that have gone before you. Not that they're trying to put themselves over, like you gentlemen said, which also took me back to the original WWF. You had guys like Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe and these other guys backstage that were coming up with the ideas and the stories, but they weren't trying to write themselves into it. They were mature guys. They had wisdom on their side. And I think it's essential to have that in any promotion, in any wrestling company now. You can't have, like, I mean, you can. It just depends on the person. Like, if they're out of the business and they're not trying to write themselves in and they're the same age as you said, it's a 35-year-old guy, right? Fair enough. But he's got to understand his role. Like, I'm the bass guitar, you're the guitar. He's the drums. Don't cross the wires. Don't cross the streams, as they say in Ghostbusters. Don't cross the streams, or you're going to get a negative result.
Right. And
You know,
again, you have to
yeah.
be willing, right? You
Yeah.
have to be, they have to understand that you understand that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to write myself into a storyline.
Right.
I'm trying to get this company the numbers that they want to see
Yeah.
to surpass, other companies.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be watching us because why? Because we're telling good stories here. We
Yeah.
have good wrestling here. We don't have people just walking out on stage, ad-libbing things, doing what they want to do. How do you fix that?
Right.
That's chaos.
Yeah.
Plus, Amir, you're going to see firsthand, maybe, because we've been to a lot of conventions.
Mm.
He has the respect. Now, I always believe there's two things in life.
Mm.
If you demand respect, you're never going to get it. But if you command it, you will. I've seen it with my own eyes. Roma at a wrestling convention, and a wrestler from the late 90s or early millennium that's at the convention has never met him before in their lives. They come walking up to him like they're 6 years old. They go,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
oh, Roma,
Yeah.
holy cheese. And he goes, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Just like when we went to Canada, he couldn't wait. He couldn't wait, Dupree.
Mhm.
He goes, I shook his hand. Roma walked by, shook his hand, and said, hey, how you doing? And he goes, holy, this is Paul Roma.
Mm.
Dupree's going, wow.
Yeah.
So I go around the corner. Roma's still standing there. I go, Roma, do me a favor. This guy was really looking forward to meeting you. Can you go in back? And he went, yeah.
Yeah.
So he went back. He's like, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? And he's like, wow, Paul Roma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he gets the respect. He gets the respect, and that's important.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, do you want to be? I don't want to use the word fool because that's the devil's word, created by him. But do you really want to shrug your shoulders at guys that hung around Vince McMahon, Pat Patterson, Terry Garvin, George Scott, Arnold Skolin, Jay Strongbow, Jack Lanza? You really want to shrug your shoulders at that guy? The pearls and the diamonds and the gems that were thrown at him, and me, not as much as Roma though. Because I'll always say, if I had 500 matches, Roma had 50,000. So his psychology and his ability to, he remembers all those angles. And you know what? And here's the magic. Here's the magic. People haven't seen those for 30 years.
Right.
And they still work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Roma still remembers them.
Mhm.
and they still work. So all he's going to do is go and, all right, this tag match. Hey, I remember when I was in Minnesota with the Rockers, and this is what we did. Hey guys, this is what you're going to do. It's gold.
Yeah, yeah,
That's absolute gold.
yeah, yeah.
Gold.
And
And
that's what perturbs me so much, Mario, is it worked so well back
yeah,
then. You can watch something from 19, and any one of our audience who doesn't go back in time, I encourage you, go back and watch, I don't know, Survivor Series 88. Watch something from back then. It was gold. It was perfectly crisp. When you talk about tag team, everybody, Paul Roma is a tag team specialist, one of the best, probably one of the best, in fact, of executing double team moves, perfect precision timing. This was a time of pure, like you said, gold. And it wasn't broken. The wheel was not broken. I think, they tried to bring in like more high speed matches and stuff, again, for a limited demographic, because not everybody wanted that. Not everybody wants that at all. You can't keep up with a match. It's like, well, what's going on? It just looks like chaos. You want a story, and it wasn't broken. There's no need to fix it. It still works today.
Yeah,
Perfectly
no,
right.
I agree. I'm going to go back to one thing Mario said about, when I'm out there and wrestlers approach me, and not just wrestlers. Here's the thing: I have a lot of respect. I push out a lot of respect, and I always tell people this: until I'm disrespected, we have no problems.
Right.
I have no problems with anybody,
Yeah.
not fans, not other wrestlers. I have all the respect in the world for everybody and everything that you do. I don't care if you're a cashier. I respect that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the people that want to stir the pot with me, that don't have anything nice to say about me, that find something
Mhm.
that they want to jab at me with. And you know what? That's okay. That
Yeah.
doesn't really bother me at all. You can say whatever you want, and going back quite a few years, I had said something on a podcast, and I ran into somebody, and I won't mention his name,
Mhm.
and he started saying some things to me, and I said, you know what? Kudos to you.
Mhm.
I'm glad that you're saying what's on your mind, and it was, not nice things to
Mhm.
my face, but I respected it
Yeah.
because he had the nerve. He had the cojones to say it to
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
I had all the respect in the world for him. It wasn't a question of whether I could beat him up or not.
Mhm.
That was a home run, hands down. I could have whooped this guy's butt all day long. But because he said what he said, I had all the respect in the world for him.
Yeah.
People don't get it.
Mhm.
This guy is mad about this, or he's mad about. I'm not mad about this, that,
Yeah.
or the other thing. I just speak the truth.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
truth may seem like I am, but it's still the truth at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. But again, I look forward to Las Vegas.
Mhm.
We'll be there signing autographs.
Mhm.
You'll be there. Mr. Mancini will be there. Um, Jim Powers will be there. So the Young Stallions will be together. And even though it starts on the 17th, we'll be signing starting the day of the 18th
Yeah.
because we're
Yeah.
going to be flying in on the 17th.
Yeah.
Just so, people are aware of that.
Yeah, we'll be there on starting the 18th, the morning of the 18th. I believe the doors open at 9 a.m. So we'll be
Yep.
ready for that 9 a.m.
You're going to
crowd.
be doing interviews with
Yep.
our fans
Yep.
or some people that aren't our fans, but that's okay.
Yep.
You know,
We're going to be doing the interviews. We're going to be doing we're going to be doing one show, one recording of Power and Glory with Paul Roma at the event for the morning. We're going to be do that on the Saturday. We've been instructed to do that on the Saturday. So again, if you are at the convention, feel free to come over to the booth. Hey, maybe you'll get to come in and ask a question live right there as we're sitting there doing the show. It's going to be an interesting event. One thing I did want to go back to before we close this episode, gentlemen, um, Jim Cornette. Again, you brought him up And I just wanted to second everything you guys said. A tremendous talent, a tremendous mind for the business. I had the pleasure of interviewing Flash Flanagan, who worked with Jim Cornette in OVW, and of course Ohio Valley Wrestling, a developmental territory. Jim Cornette was basically running that in the late '90s. So he produced the likes of a John Cena, a Randy Orton, a Batista, and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, again, someone like that, that's the type of mind. Somebody who's passionate about the business as a whole. And like you said, passionate about the business, not just themselves. That's the
Yeah,
key.
right. I only have one Cornette story. That's
Yeah.
it. But I was at the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I was going to the Hall of Fame inductions, which Gene Okerlund almost had me kicked out of. But because he made me laugh so hard, I bellowed through the whole thing, man. And Joe Barone was getting a little irritated with me because
Oh no.
me and Gene was just making me laugh my head off. But I was walking toward, which was a pretty long walk, and as I was walking, Cornette was coming down an escalator. And I said, well, I want to meet him, you know. And I got there as he came to the bottom of the escalator, and I put my hand out and I said, "Hi, Jim. I'm Mario Mancini." He goes, "I know who you are." That was so cool, man. He goes, "I know who you are."
Yeah.
So, so we walked.
Oh.
It was quite a walk to the room where they were doing the Hall of Fame inductions, and I had to stop every now and then to put my hands on my knees because he was making me laugh so hard.
Mhm.
He was really a nice guy. He treated me with respect. It didn't matter if I was Mario Mancini or it was, I was, you know, I don't know, whatever got one of the Midnight Express. He's really close to. He treated me with the same respect, and he's a really nice guy. I've watched a lot of his stuff. I watched him cry over professional wrestling, and the people in professional wrestling. I mean, before this guy leaves this earth, and I hope it's not anytime soon, someone, they have to tap into this guy if they want to be successful.
Mhm.
As I was listening, because Big Daddy, the Guardian of Chaos, said, "Hey, they mentioned Power and Glory and you on his podcast," and I don't want to digress, but just very briefly, because Jim really didn't know a lot, and it was about Rita Chatterton. And if they're going to watch this, somebody's going to send it to them. I just want to tell them that the AEW, the Tony Khan thing, happened shortly after her lawyer filed suit, and I think Khan wanted to sew her up after that news came on exclusively in case somebody else tried to grab her or tried to put her out there. I also think Cornette's right, since she went through that. Tony kind of wanted to say, here's something back from the wrestling business. But there's one thing that Cornette said that would bother any professional wrestler. I just want to clear it up, and it's a word that we use in law, and I just want Cornette to know what she received was de minimis. It wasn't. He mentioned a huge number, and it was minimal, but a number nobody would say no to, and she did keep calling me, going, I don't get it. I'm under contract. I'm not doing anything. He's not. I'm asking if I'm going to TV tapings, if I'm doing anything, and I did say to her, I go, well, a scout. Okay. So I go, listen, I'm not going to throw any ham and egg at you. If I see somebody that, really got the goods, the total package, I'll send them your way, and you can give them to the powers to be, and I tried to help her, but it ended up that job title was just something to keep her at bay.
Mhm.
Again, I think it was because any exposure or media like that. And I don't mean to take over the show, but we did have a theme on the show. I just want to mention one thing that I think the fans will find very interesting. I think you'll find very interesting. I found very interesting, and Roma will find very interesting. Um, Rick Rude grew up in St. Peter, Minnesota. He went to Robbinsdale High School
Okay.
in Robbinsdale, Minnesota, and he went to high school with Tom Zink, Brady Boone, Nikita Koloff, Kurt Hennig, John Nord, and Barry Darso. They
Wow.
all went to high school together.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's
You
incredible.
know, I thought it was always just because they were from Minnesota, it was the Minnesota connection.
Yeah.
But those sons of guns all went to the same school together.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
it makes more sense to me.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. That's incredible. And that, I tell you what, we'll leave it right there, Mario, and then we will do the Rick Rude special coming up because obviously Elimination Chamber news took precedence today. So, we apologize for that, fans, but we hope that you enjoyed this episode here as we did this topic here on John Cena and such. Before we do depart this week, I do want to say, I hope that Drew McIntyre does not get relegated out of the main event picture because, again, I think he is probably the hottest talent they have who's not, letting like John Cena being repackaged. I just hope now there would be an angle if Drew hopped over to AEW, but he'd have to be handled correctly. Like now, if something like that happened, and then he voiced his frustrations against the other company there, and yeah, that would be an interest. But hey, he's under contract; it's not going to happen. So, but by
Well,
the
you know what? Get Paul Roma in AEW, and you'll see a lot of shocking things that would really attract a lot of, you know what I mean?
yeah, no,
I
I wouldn't.
appreciate all that.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Power and Glory. We hope you enjoyed it, and we ask you again, Powerplex that subscribe button, hit the likes, and share with your friends and family. We will be back next week right here, so stay tuned. And until then, God bless you, Paul.
You also, God bless everybody that watches our show, and we greatly appreciate it. And Mr. Mancini,
God
that's
bless
you.
everyone on this, and the fans might not realize this, but on this glorious Sunday, God bless, stay safe, and stay warm. It was warm for a little while, but now it's not.
Yeah. Stay warm up there on the upper East Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Power and Glory. God bless you all. We'll see you next week.